We are all the sons and daughters of God, and we have the same thing within us that the divine has. And it doesn't mean we're lesser than, it means we are every bit as powerful as the divine. And for me, as I start to play with this idea and this concept, I just thought, well, how fun would it be to sit there and actually talk about, for those of you that accepted the challenge, of spending a year tapping into your own divine ability to manifest? Because that's what you get to do when you decide to start going in and finding out that you're one with God and that you're a powerful creator because God's a powerful creator because you're the son and daughter of God. So that's what that's all about, right? And so we talked about in the first quarter this idea of, yeah, but the question is, are you doing it consciously or not? Because what I proposed at that time is that we're all doing it. It's just a matter of, do you want to do it consciously or not consciously? I don't know about you, but for my life, what I found is it's much more powerful and a lot more fun if I do it consciously. How about you, right? And so we started to have the conversation, and during that talk, we talked about this idea of your toolbox. In other words, what are the different tools that we can use when it comes to manifesting? And as a quick review, I talked about the idea of creation, and we talked about metaphysics. And this idea in metaphysics, it's actually a 3-step process. And I talked about this idea of mind, idea, and expression. From a metaphysical perception, all things start in the mind of the divine. So when we talk about mind, really what that is it's God. Omniscience, all-knowing, the divine. That's where everything starts. And then what happens is we start there, and then all of a sudden, God, if you will, has an idea. And by the way, who is this stuff flowing through? You. That's who it's flowing through, right? So you start off with this idea that God's hanging out, you're a reflection of the God. God decided that, hey, I want to have this experience called you. And then all of a sudden, you're connected with this thing, so this thing is constantly flowing through you, and therefore, we've got the mind of God. The mind of God is omniscience, all intelligence. And the way that this happens is you start there, and then all of a sudden, bing, an idea. Where did the idea come from? The divine, God. And so we take this idea that's been shared from the divine through us, but we can't stop there. Because if all we do is have an idea, but we don't do anything with it, then what happens? Nothing. Ever do that? Ever have some ideas and don't do anything about it? What happens? Nothing. It's got to be expressed, or there needs to be action taken. And so we talked about that. And then I mentioned this idea of, from a spiritual standpoint, we have substance, and that used to confuse me. And I mentioned how substance, until somebody mentioned it in one of the classes I took, was basically spiritual Play-Doh. And it's endless, and it's always there, and we can always use it, and we can always make stuff out of spiritual Play-Doh, is what I said. But in order for us to do it, what has to happen? It needs to be directed. And again, I'm going to say this. Who directs that? We do. We do. And yes, while we have God flowing through us, you have to understand that it stops right here. It doesn't go any further until I start taking action or you start taking action. It needs to be moved. And then I talked about this idea of how do we direct it? Our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And we talked about that during the first go-around, okay? So then we came up with this fancy definition of creation is really substance plus directive power. But then I didn't like it. I thought it could be more. And what I said was that powerful creation is actually substance plus conscious directive power, is how I defined it. So in other words, it's great to have all this stuff, but a better, for me anyways, and I think for many others, is the idea of why don't we do this consciously? Why don't we create in our lives what we want consciously instead of doing it unconsciously, which unfortunately is where I spent a lot of my life and created a whole bunch of stuff. It was all perfect. Don't take me wrong. That there's no judgment back there. I don't look back at my past in shame, blame, judgment, or guilt. I just think I could have done it maybe a little bit more effectively, is a nice way to put it. So we've got this idea of manifestation, and now we come to this idea, the second part of the second quarter of this. I'm talking about this idea of a blueprint. Wouldn't it be cool if you had a blueprint that you could go back to every single time when you wanted to manifest something in your life, and you could always go, hey, check this out. Well, I just follow the blueprint. It's so much easier to follow a blueprint than every single time you sit down to do something, you go, oh, wait a minute. What do I got to do? How do I got to do it? Where do I got to start? Where does this begin? All that kind of stuff. So what if we talk about this idea that each and every one of you sitting here right in this moment has a blueprint that you can use to manifest something in your life? Would you like that? I would hope everybody would go, yes. Yes, have a blueprint. Now, what I want to tell you is to understand is that this blueprint could be just a little bit different than mine, than the Fillmores, than Jesus's. Why? Because we're individual expressions of the divine. That's why. So what I'm going to share with you this morning is really the foundational one that Myrtle used, part of it. Yes, there's going to be a part two. Part of it, in terms of how she did it, because I think it's so powerful what she did, and yet it seems so simple and so basic. And yet there was tremendous, tremendous, tremendous power in what she did. But what I want to share with you is understand, when you finally sit back and go, I'm going to start doing something with my life, and I'm going to start creating it the way that I want to create it, and I'm going to start to manifest, what I'm saying is it might be a little bit different for you. So in other words, you might fall in love with affirmations and denials. That's fantastic. You might love to do tapping. That's great. You might like to do a whole bunch of other things that resonate with you. That's totally cool. But just understand, you've got a way, because of who and what you are, to manifest whatever you want in your life. Don't forget that. Don't think that, oh my God, well, I'm not doing this, or I should be doing that, or this, that, or the other thing. Go within. Ask your soul, what is my path to doing this? And your soul has to respond to you. It doesn't have a choice. And I'm not making it sound like there's an adversarial relationship. There's none. Your soul loves you. Your soul is you. It's a part of you. It's part of the divine that's inside of you. So it's there to do nothing but help and support you. Right? So I want to go back to this idea of the powerful creation of the directive power, and I want to talk specifically about this in terms of the example that we have and the example that you've heard me talk to, but I'm really going to break it down because I think in the one moment when Myrtle decided to heal, there were so many things that happened, but if you really slow things down, and I'm talking about watching a replay of something where it's so slow that you can actually watch it and then see what it was that she does, because I think it's pretty profound. So if we go back to it, remember, she went and she used this affirmation to start her healing journey. I'm a child of God, therefore I don't inherit sickness. Sounds pretty simple, right? It's like, well, it's pretty basic. It's an affirmation. But I'm just going to tell you, in that one moment, there was a lot of things going on inside of her. So remember, what had happened is she had been praying. She had tuberculosis. She had been praying about being healed. So go back to the equation. Mind, idea, expression. Where was she when she was doing that? Mind. She's connecting with God. She's connecting in herself. She's connecting with mind. Infinite intelligence, omniscience, all the good stuff. And she started off with mind, right? And then what did she do? Well, there happened to be a gentleman traveling at the time that was doing talks about metaphysics and mind science. His name was E.B. Weeks at the time. And guess what? She had the idea, are we connecting the dots here? She had the idea, maybe I should go see this guy, because they were looking for things. Why? She had tuberculosis. And so they were looking for things to do differently, a way to approach it differently. And so the thought came up to her, go see him. Guess who was telling her to go see him? Her spirit, her soul. That's who was telling her to go see him. So she went and saw him. She had the idea. It showed up, right? But she wasn't done with the creative process. What does she have to do once she goes sees him? Mind, idea, expression, or action. She had to do something with the information she got from E.B. Weeks. And so she had to start off in what I'm going to share with each and every person here this morning. And I want you to hear this. The stuff that I'm talking about is so simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Because of who and what you are, everything that you want to do, everything that you want to change starts off with one thing and one thing only: a decision. Myrtle made a decision. Up until that point in time, you have to understand, she's told her entire life she was sick, she was weak, her body would never heal. There was nothing she could do about her situation. That's what she was told. So in effect, she was just following the program. Well, I guess I just got this lousy body. I guess it's not going to heal. I guess I'm going to have to deal with this my whole life. I guess I got tuberculosis. I guess that means I'm going to be dead in 5 years. I guess that's the way it's going to be. Till she had a different idea, and she started taking action. So in a sense, what was happening is by her not making a decision, she was kind of in indecision. And just remember that. I love the book called Power of Decision. Anybody ever read that book? It's an awesome book by Ray Charles Baker. And he says in the book, indecision is actually the individual's decision to fail. There's also a famous song out there that says, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Are you hearing me? Are you getting this? It's a decision. That's all it is. It's a decision to do something a little bit different. I'm going to change. I don't know how, but the minute you make that decision, I've told you this, there is an entire army of angels that's going to stand behind you and say, giddy up, let's go. Let's go do this. But it can't do that. Nothing I talk about up here can happen until you make that decision that I'm going to do something differently and I'm going to change. Nothing. Why? Because of who and what you are. And because of this crazy thing that God called free will. Nothing can usurp your free will. Nothing. So if you decide nothing, then nothing. But if you decide I want to change, then guess what happens? Ideas. And then as long as you make the expression, you take the action, then things are going to start to change. Why? Because of who and what you are. That's the way it works. It's pretty simple, right? So, but without that decision, none of this stuff can happen. And so as Myrtle's sitting there, she also did something else. She quit being a victim. How many times have you been a victim? Woe is me. I can't change this. Why can't I figure this out? Here we go. Victim, 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 victim. She stopped in that one moment. She said, wait a minute. There's something I can do about this. I can make a difference. I'm no longer a victim. She quit being a victim. And at the same time, she accepted who she truly was, which is what? The daughter of God, a child of God, which meant what? Every single aspect of the divine is inside of me. Everything is inside of me. And I'm totally 100% connected to it. And so she accepted who she was. She said, I'm a child of God. That was the first part of the affirmation. I'm a child of God. Reconnecting herself to her divinity. Reconnecting herself. Stopping to believe everything that she believed up until that moment. Right? And she started to believe and realize that everything that she needed was inside of her. Every single thing was inside of her. She didn't need some other person, some other place, some other thing, although other people, other places, and other things are helpful. They are. However, ultimately what she understood was she finally got it, like, oh my God, so everything is inside of me. Why? Because of who and what she was, a child of God. Right? She also had a belief that she could change. Up until that point in time, she couldn't change. So she had to do what? She had to change her mind. I can change. I can do something about this. So she had to believe. And when I say she believed, I want you to understand something. That when you first start out on this journey, I'm going to just tell you how it worked for me and my belief is for a lot of people. When you start deciding to do something and make the changes in your life, it's not like you stand on top of the mountain and go, I got this. There's a reason the story in the Bible says, Have the faith of a mustard seed. Do you know why the mustard seed was used in that example? It's the smallest seed there is, the smallest. So what was Jesus really saying? It doesn't need to be profound. It doesn't mean you stand up and pound your chest and, I got this. No, it's a mustard seed. Just give me a little bit. Give me a little bit of faith, and it will grow. It will grow. It will grow. It will grow. But we got to start somewhere. Start with the mustard seed. That's what Myrtle did. She believes she can change. Do you think she stood there in that moment and said, oh yeah, I'm going to heal tuberculosis? I'm going to guess not. But she was willing to try. And she was willing to have the faith of a mustard seed to do it. She quit believing the lies that she'd been telling herself. What was she told? I'm frail, I'm weak, I can't, there's nothing I can do. And I could probably sit here and rattle off another 40 things that she was telling herself that just simply were not true. Maybe about her own connection to her heart, maybe about her relationship with God, maybe about who and what she was. She came from a fundamental background. She came from a fundamental Christian background. So guess what? That was there. Original sin, sinner, going to hell if I don't follow all the rules, blah, 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 blah. Right? That's what? She had to quit believing the lies that she'd been telling herself. And then finally, she understood that her beliefs were creating her reality, and she began changing them. Yeah. She had to look at the garbage in her head and take the garbage out and replace the garbage with good stuff. That's what mind science is all about. This is the stuff that we're talking about. And she began to work on her mindset, not only about her own physical health, but her spiritual health, her mental health, her emotional health, all of them. And she began looking at all these thoughts that are going on and said, wait a minute, why am I doing this to myself? Why? There's no reason. There's not. Each and every one of us that go through something, I've said this before, there's a lesson to be learned. Learn the lesson and move on. Get on with it. And so in this one moment that I think is just so incredibly profound, Myrtle gave us a blueprint. She showed us, this is how you do it. And that was the beginning of how she wound up healing herself 2 years later, and the rest is history. And what I'm saying is, whether it's Myrtle, or whether it's Charles, or whether it's Jesus Christ, or whether it's any other master that you've ever studied, it all starts with a decision. I can do something about this because of who and what I am. And you don't have to earn it. You don't have to do 40 minutes of meditation every day, although it's helpful. I'm not saying don't use your spiritual tools. Use your spiritual tools, but what I'm saying is get over the fact that you think you've got to do something to earn your divinity. You don't have to do anything to earn your divinity. You are the divine. Each and every one of you. Showing up at this point, at this time, carrying inside of you enough light to transform the entire planet in and of itself, by you. And when we come together, look out. Because then we really can shift worlds. We can really shift consciousness. And when I say consciousness, I don't just mean on an individual basis. I'm talking about the collective consciousness that's going on. We have the power to be able to do that if we decide that's what we want to do. So don't forget that. Don't ever forget that. You're amazing. You are the light of God. You're beautiful. You are needed. You are heard. You are seen. And each and every one of us are so glad that you are here because you are brilliant. And we are incredibly grateful and blessed. Thank you. I love you. I hope you have a great week. Take care.
Hey, it's Reverend Mike here. I just wanted to stop for a moment before you get on with your day, and thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. It means the world to us, and I just wanted to let you know if there's anything that we can do to make your experience even better, please do not hesitate to reach out by going to our website. I also wanted to offer you the opportunity for us to get together and sit down so I could get to know you a little bit better and answer any questions that you have. I can either do that by either getting together in person, have a cup of coffee, or we can meet online via Zoom. If you're interested, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can reach me at michael@courage2thrive.com. And lastly, if you find these messages are helping you, we would be tremendously grateful if you'd consider donating to the center. The best and the easiest way to do that is simple. Just go to our website. Again, thank you so much. Hope you have a great day. Hope you're doing well. God bless, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye now.